Hi, welcome back to AP World History Essay Writing, the DBQ. Today's focus is the paragraph format of how this DBQ essay should be written, or a very strong example of an outline to how to write this essay. Again, remember the suggestions that I had for writing notes and a presentation that's given by your teacher. It's very important to get all of this down, and like I said earlier, it will help you with the quizzes that are after each of these modules, the short little quizzes. And again, email me if you have any questions. I will gladly help you with whatever I can help with. Okay, let's talk about your DBQ format and how this essay is outlined. Paragraph 1, okay, that's your introduction. You all know that. The very first thing that you should have is context. This is that contextualization that I talked about in the DBQ points lesson. Approximately 2 to 3 sentences. I can almost say with certainty that 2 will probably not be enough on its own. Context, remember that there's so much in context, and remember that's what's going on, where, why, all of that that leads up to your prompt and your question. So I tell my students generally 2 to 3. 3 is probably better. Maybe even a full what you would think of as a paragraph, 4 or 5 sentences for context, and you would need all that in order to earn the point because it's that important. Your thesis. Remember, this addresses all parts of the question. Stay within the specified time period. In your prompt, you will be given a time period. So stay within that time period and always take a position. Don't wheedle waddle back and forth. Just, this is what I'm going to write about, and stick with that. Okay? Remember, you provide 3 specific answers to that question. And the argument development, these are how your body paragraph topics are taken from your thesis and how this is formed. This is the organizational path of your essay. This is the heart of what your essay will be about, okay? Remember, as I explained earlier, the argument development is an extension of your thesis, okay? And your thesis answers the question. And hopefully you'll start seeing links between each of these. But again, I will have a separate lesson for context, a separate lesson for your thesis, a separate lesson for your argument development and your document analysis and so forth. Okay? But that is paragraph 1. Okay, that's your introduction. Context, thesis, and your argument development in that order. Paragraph 2. This is about your first answer. Okay? The very first thing that you should put in your paragraph for your first answer is a topic sentence. Okay, introduce your first answer by connecting it to the thesis and the question. You don't necessarily have to have a transition statement because your topic sentence serves that purpose. Okay? When you introduce an answer like that at the beginning of a paragraph, you don't need a transition at the end of a paragraph or at the beginning of the next. Simply introducing your answer is a great way to transition from one paragraph to the next paragraph. Okay, after your topic sentence, after you've introduced this answer, now you have to provide your evidence. Okay, remember, these are specific causes or factors from the documents. This is the specific information that I mentioned earlier, right? Explaining the content of what is in that document and going beyond just repeating the information. Okay? And when you explain that information with the first document, I require that my students use parenthetical documentation. And the AP test does not require that. However, again, you don't want to leave your AP reader asking, which document is this from? what is he saying here? What does this mean? What is this about? You don't want to leave any of those questions with your AP reader. So that's another reason why I require parenthetical documentation. It's very easy. All you have to do when you use documentation, you cite your source, you have your explanation, and at the end of the explanation, you put the parentheses, the document number, into the parentheses, and then your period. And that goes at the end of the statement. After you've utilized and interpreted the information from the document, and you've cited your source using parenthetical documentation, you soapstone that document. And remember, soapstone is your subject, your occasion, your audience, your purpose, speaker, and the tone. Okay? And you want to provide as much of soapstone from the document as possible. Okay? Then you have your next document. And remember, I told you that you need at least 3 documents to support each answer. So, you explain the information from the second document. This is a whole nother document because remember, you're using all 7. And again, you use parenthetical documentation for that document. Soapstone the second document. Again, the speaker, the occasion, the audience, the purpose, subject, the tone, all of that for each document. And remember, each explanation is a separate statement. Each source is a separate statement. Okay, so you'll utilize 2 statements for each document, and it goes in that order. Keep the information from the first document together. Keep the information from the second document together. And keep the information from the third document together. You don't want to give the information from 3 documents and then go back and soapstone or source the 3 documents. Don't do that. Even though the 3 documents are supporting the same answer, the information within those documents and the speakers and the tones and the point of view, it's definitely possible, highly possible, that they're not similar. And usually within your documents, the only similarity is that these documents do support the same answer. So if my iPad just fell, sorry if that flipped on you. My screen went upside down. I don't know if you guys saw that. But it's very important that you keep the information from one document together like this and keep the statements together. Okay? After you've used the documents and provided evidence from the documents, this is where you give your specific outside evidence. This is information that still supports the same answer. It's just not presented in a document. Okay? If the information that you try to utilize as your outside evidence is found within a document, then you don't get credit for that. It cannot be in any of the documents. Okay? And you must have specific examples. All right, context. Not only do you have to have context at the beginning of your essay to put this whole issue that's been presented to you in order for you to write an essay, you have to put this whole issue into the historical process. How did we get to this point? Well, you also need to do that for each answer. Place this answer in the global historical process. Okay? The importance and the significance of this answer also needs to be put in context. It needs a place within world history. And then the last thing that you do is provide evidence for this same answer. Okay? Explain why this answer addresses the prompt by describing the impact of this answer. So basically, when you write a body paragraph, you have your answer, you have your evidence that supports your answer, and you've sourced that evidence. You've provided specific additional outside evidence. You've put that answer into context. You've shown us how it has a place in world history. And then you've explained why your answer is an answer. Why it addresses the prompt. And I'm going to tell you guys, for analysis, because you're answering why, it is perfectly acceptable, and I actually highly encourage you to start that with the word because. Alright? If you're answering why, there's nothing wrong with starting off with the word because. Okay? And then provide your analysis, right? Why is this an answer? This is an answer because, and then you'd go on into your explanation. Alright? And, by describing the impact of that answer or the effect that that answer has had or other things that it's caused, that shows why that answer is important and how it addresses the prompt. Okay? And you've got to make that connection. Hopefully, you've picked up that your next body paragraph, which is paragraph 3, that addresses answer number 2, the format is the exact same as your previous body paragraph. You have your introduction, but now this is your second answer. Remember, you need to have 3. Now this is your second answer. You provide evidence just like you did, but now you're using 3 different documents. Okay, that's very important. You don't want to use the same first 3 that you had in your first body paragraph. You want to use 3 different ones. That's just a good rule of thumb. Now I understand that when we get to the third answer and you only have 7 documents, that doesn't make 9, and you need to reuse 2 of your documents, but it's a really good idea with the format of your essay to go ahead and use all of the documents first before you start repeating the use of any of the documents. Okay? And again, you explain the information and then you source that document. Okay? Keep the information from the 4th document together, the 5th document together, and the 6th document together. And as always, use your parenthetical documentation. It makes it, and actually, honestly, guys, when you're writing your essay, and you might have to go back and forth between paragraphs that you've already written, when you're going back through and proofreading a little bit, when you have that parenthetical documentation there, that lets you know, oh, look, I've used 5 documents. I need to use 2 more. Or, oh, okay, I've used all 7. I'm good to go. It helps you stay on the right track and stay on task as well. Again, this answer needs specific outside evidence. It needs to be put in historical context. And as always, your analysis. Okay? So here's my answer, here's my support for my answer, and here's why it is an answer. Okay? That's very important. Now, the order that you present your answers in your introduction when you write your thesis should be the same order as your body paragraphs. So whichever answer is presented first in your thesis should be the first body paragraph. The second answer that's presented in your thesis should be your second body paragraph. And your third answer should be your 4th body paragraph. Again, this is the exact same format as the previous 2 answers. Now you're using the 7th document with parenthetical documentation, and you're keeping those statements together. The last 2 documents that you use to provide as support for your third answer can be any of the other documents that you've already used, because now you've used all 7. You just need to make sure that this document does support your answer. Okay? You don't just want to use a random document just to use one. And it is possible for one document to support multiple answers or to support multiple ideas. Okay? Or multiple themes. And that's why obviously you can reuse documents. But I highly suggest you follow that format. And remember, You always want to go above and beyond the expectations, okay? And that's why 3 documents are required for 3 answers, okay? And when you reuse a document here and you soapstone these documents, now this document is serving another purpose because it's supporting a different answer. So it's important that it's sourced a little bit differently, okay? Because now it has a different purpose. There's a different point of view. Again, outside evidence, context, and analysis are also required for your 3rd answer. Okay? And the last paragraph is your conclusion. This is your 5th paragraph. Okay, first thing that you should do, right, everything should be in this order, is restate your thesis in a new way. Always, always, always restate your thesis in a new way. And some of you might be thinking, wow, this is going to be so repetitive or so redundant. But you know what? That's okay, because that means you're on task and you're writing about what you're supposed to be writing about. When you think, okay, I'm starting to sound redundant, I need to talk about something else, that's when you get off task and you don't get points and your essay becomes a mess. Okay, so even if you sound repetitive, that's okay. That means you're probably doing what you're supposed to be doing and writing about what you're supposed to be writing about. Okay, this is where your synthesis goes. This is where you bring it all together, right? Whether you do that through a different period, situation, or geographical area, or a different theme, or a different discipline, a different field of study. You don't have to do all 3. Just one of those 3 ways will get you your synthesis point. Synthesis is also multiple sentences, just like your context, because it requires specifics, it requires a lot of information, and it requires an explanation. Okay? You have to show that connection between your thesis and whichever one of these you choose to write about. Okay? Then you have to demonstrate a connection. You've got to have some analysis here, or this is where you summarize your analysis statements. Remember, in your body paragraphs, at the end of each of your body paragraphs should be analysis, right? Why that's an answer. Well, you want to demonstrate your connection, right, by taking your documents that you use as evidence and summarizing those analysis statements. Okay, that's what your analysis statements do. They show the connection between the evidence and the thesis. Because when you say, here is my answer, and here's my support for my answer, and here's why it's an answer, you demonstrate a connection or a link between the evidence and the answer. Okay, so when you write it, you're writing your conclusion, right? Summarize those analysis statements, right? Make your connections even stronger. And then the very last thing that you should do on any essay you write is explaining the importance of understanding the thesis. Not just the importance of the thesis, but why we need to why do we need to know this? Why do we need to know this information? Why should we understand the thesis? That's how you finish up any essay, no matter what the class is. That's a great way to conclude your writing. Okay, that's your format for your DBQ and the outline, and it's in this exact order. Again, if you have any questions, please email me. If there's something that you did not understand on any of these slides or anything that I've said, I will gladly try and clarify anything for you to help you out. And of course, you can always come by my room. Okay, I will see you guys next for your next video lesson. And I believe, I think what we'll do to keep it easy is just go in order. So the possibility of earning your first points, right, in your introduction with your thesis, we'll start there. Well, your context comes first. I understand that, but we'll start with the first video lesson as for your thesis. Okay, thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.